Welcome to the Better Outcomes podcast, where we discuss all things leadership, sales, and communication in Australian business. At Better Outcomes Training, we provide world-class training solutions for businesses who want to arm their teams with cutting-edge skills to lead better, sell better, and enjoy more success, purpose, and profit from the work they do. For a full breakdown of all the courses we offer, visit www.better-outcomes.com.au. There's also a link in the description. Now, on to today's podcast. Enjoy.
Recording in progress. I sometimes cut this out. Other times I leave it in. My editing skills are going.
There you go.
Got to do a course. Welcome, everyone. Another outcome. We'll start this again. I'm going to edit all this out for a little bit. Welcome, everybody, to another podcast episode. Here with the great man, Paul Harrison. Paulie, how are you today?
I'm absolutely electrifying. Thanks, cuz, for a Sunday afternoon, mate. How about yourself? What's going on?
No, I've got a Sunday off. That's 2 Sundays in a row that we've had off. So
Spoiled,
I'm
mate.
lapping
Spoiled.
it up. I'm spoiled. Not really sure what to do with myself. You know, it's like, what do I do with my hands? What am I doing on my day off?
Yeah.
So as soon as I know I've got a day off, it's ring you, get down and have a feed down at Wolf Cafe, a few discussions, in-depth, worldly, political, transforming discussions. And it usually revolve around rugby, jiu-jitsu and food.
Absolutely.
For us. And then, a little bit of admin work for better outcomes, few things like that. But it's good to have a bit of a rest. Got a big rest coming up soon. I've got a big holiday coming up in a couple of weeks.
Well deserved, well earned, my man.
Mm.
What's it, like a month or something like that you're away?
Yeah, a little bit over a month. So it was planned. Everything around it wasn't planned. Everything that's happening outside of my wife's big holiday wasn't planned. So we're kind of going with the flow a little bit. What about you? How's your week been?
Yeah, good. What did I have this week? I had a mini MBA with 11 people, so it was quite a small class, and then did a 2-hour influence and persuasion keynote. Maybe it wasn't. It was a workshop. It was a workshop, but it was just a huge amount of content that I wanted to get into a very small amount of time. You know, so it's like you don't always have the luxury of deep time to be able to go in and really build on, you know, these concepts and create breakthrough moments for people and stuff like that. But it was an executive leadership group that were having an on-site sort of strategy meeting, and one of their decision makers called me in and said he wanted me to give a presentation on being able to influence and persuade. So that was good fun. It was good fun. I got to have the rare combination of being able to wear a high vis jacket and also be able to quote Aristotle. So there we go. Quite a lot of diversity in that delivery, I'll tell you.
I wonder how many times that's happened in the past. You might have been up in the top 10, I would suggest, of times you've ever someone with a high vis shirt on has gone and quoted a great philosopher.
Absolutely.
I would suggest. So today, I'd like to speak, or us to talk about a common problem that we seem to find coming up very often these days, which is the whole work-life balance issue that people struggle with. And I guess we can attach to that some time management skills, and which can help us with that balance. So work-life balance, Paulie, it seems to be on everyone's lips. It seems to be a much precious commodity that a lot of people are searching for. It's a tough one, I think. It's tough between. I've unfortunately found out early on that I have to work because I like money to live and to feed my family. So it's that side of things, which is tough. The life balance part, well, sometimes work takes over life and you end up seem to be working flat out, which I've been doing lately. So what are your thoughts around this?
Well, first thing I've got to ask the question with regards to what is the problem around work-life balance, because I'll tell you this. I mean, obviously, particularly in the training world and training a lot of leaders, things like work-life balance do come up in conversation a lot of the time. I'm interested to know what the actual problems are, because I know that there are, and I think it would vary from person to person. But I've heard examples with regards to my boss shouldn't be sending me an email over the weekend because I need to focus on work-life balance. Because as soon as somebody sends me an email, then I feel guilty if I don't reply to it over the weekend. So that's what I
Really?
have heard, sort of issues with regards to work-life balance. Um, it's a good question. It's a good question. What do you think the challenges are that people are having out there with work-life balance? Before I get into it any deeper.
Well, if we take the situation of someone getting sent an email by their boss over the weekend,
Yeah,
I think the problem would be that they've turned their phone on. They should just leave their phone off until they go to work, or look
yeah,
at it and think, it's got nothing to do with me until Monday morning.
yeah,
Switch it off. Um, if you've got an issue with that, just don't read it, don't open it.
yeah,
However, having said that, I'm one of those people that doesn't like the little notification.
yeah,
I look at my wife's phone, she's like 22,000 unread emails, and doesn't bother her. I don't know how it doesn't bother her, but it bothers me. The whole work-life balance thing, I think, I'm not sure where it came from, but I seem to have a lot of like entrepreneurs and high-end business people have already made it, talking about, you got to have work-life balance and whatnot. But those people have inevitably already got their lives sorted and have the flexibility in their schedule or in their financial status to be able to manipulate their circumstances so that they've got a lot of work-life balance. They can work whenever they want and do whatever they like. A lot of people like Alex Hormozy, for example. I've heard him talking recently about how he just works all the time.
yeah,
I don't
yeah.
have
Well,
work.
that's
I just work all the time.
that's the other side of it. I think that there's a couple of aspects to this. I think certainly with regards to people who feel obliged to respond to emails and stuff like that over the weekend, I agree with your point with regards to maybe removing notifications or what have you on your phone. If you get a
Yeah.
message in, but it's like, what is the actual challenge here? What is the problem? Because I come from, I think, a similar sort of way of thinking to yourself. Is I take huge amounts of joy from the work I do. I really, really do, and it's a big contributing factor of a sort of a positive lifestyle for me. Which is, if I'm out, I'm facilitating, I'm having meetings, I'm working with people, working with clients. It gives me a massive degree of happiness and joy, and also, because the training world, it's a very taxing world. And what I mean by that is it's physically draining. You're presenting, you've got to be in full flight, you've got to be fully engaged, you've got to have good energy. It takes a lot out of you. But I think that really, if somebody came to me and said, you need more work-life balance, it would be like, my thought process is, it's like, you're probably right. You might be right in theory, but the fact of the matter is, I love what I do. I take genuine happiness from the work I do. And I think when I'm in that situation, it's like, if I don't work, if I don't facilitate for a week, and I don't think that's never the case unless I'm on holiday somewhere, then I start getting really sort of, I find myself in a funny place. It's
A little bit
like
itchy, a little bit
a little bit itchy. It's
going
like
on, a little bit out of
I got a
sorts.
little bit too much energy, because it's like you get used to delivering anywhere from, 2 to maybe 4, maybe 5 days in a week. That's a big week if you do 5 days back to back, but it happens from time to time. Um, but the other thing as well is, I think it maybe where this is crossing over a little bit here, is that when I finish up at 5 p.m. or what have you, I come home. Yes, there might be some admin that I've got to do for my businesses or what have you, but I really, I think a lot of the time I can actually get back on the train, or get back in the car and come back, and I'm working on things like maybe answering a few emails if I'm in an Uber or something like that. And it's not something that sort of lingers. It's not like I'm having to deal with politics at the office or anything like that, because we work with so many different people that if there's people you're not getting on with or what have you, just stop working with them. So I think that could be a thing to play through as well. But I think it's what you want in life. It's what do you want in life? And again, particularly when I was in Europe for so long, for God, maybe since 2009, working with a lot of entrepreneurs, and entrepreneurs maybe might consider, thinking in a slightly different way, but their life becomes their business very often. And we can have the debate, the discussion with regards to that's healthy or is unhealthy. But I think if you have the choice to do what you want to do, and working as part of that, then awesome. I do kind of get the point of view from people saying that, that example with the replying to the email that their boss has sent them. I kind of get that, because they feel that maybe they're not being seen as a team player or what have you, and I can understand that. But again, they contracted to certain hours, so if they're contracted from 9 to 5, then that's the time that the business is buying your energy, your efforts, your expertise. So maybe you could feel justified in saying, listen, that's when I reply to emails as well, and fair enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, one thing I will touch on there is something you spoke about last week, when we were talking about talking towards a young salesperson.
Ah,
Use the example of that coming up, and you spoke about, once you're kind of established, find something that you like to do or like to sell, or a type of people you want to be around, and find something to sell to them.
yeah.
Something very similar that I talk to all my kids about, like the from me, like I said, you got to get your head around the fact you got to work. You have to work in life. That's just what it is. If you can find your passion
Yeah.
and actually work in an area that you're passionate about, it doesn't seem like work. I use the example of Kelly Slater. I think I've talked about him on the
Yeah.
podcast before. The goat of surfing has been around forever, and I say that to my kids, like, he gets to fly around the world and surf. He
Mm,
loves to surf. Like, imagine if you got paid to do that. My daughter's very good at netball. Imagine if you're getting paid to play netball.
yeah.
That would be your job. Maybe you love cars. You just love working on cars. Get a mechanic, get an apprenticeship as a mechanic, work your way through. If you end up as working on a race team, V8
Yeah.
supercars, or Formula One or something, living your absolute dream, it wouldn't feel like a chore. It wouldn't feel like work. So
Absolutely.
I think where you are at the moment is in one of those beautiful places where you absolutely in love with what you do. And I love what I do as a tradie. So really love my job. Best part about my job is I can walk out the door at 3:30, 4 o'clock, whenever it is we end, and that's the end of my day. I don't have to bring work home
Yeah.
with me, because I can't work from home until they figure out how I can build a house or rig a crane from home. I can't work from home. So I walk out the door, see you later, see you in the morning, see you at 6 o'clock or 5 o'clock or whenever it is we're starting,
Yeah.
and I'm done. Um, I don't have to do emails now. I'm changing roles soon, so that's going to be something I might have to get used to. And I've had a speech from one of the bosses about it, about how site managers and supervisors are very demanding and they'll try and get you at all hours, but I've just got to try and turn your phone off.
Yeah.
I go, righto, I can do that. So, but that's up to the individual as well. If you want to take a
Absolutely.
call on the weekend, you feel like you should, yeah, good for you.
So, Cuz, here's a question. Let's play devil's advocate here. And let's say we've got people in the audience people are listening to this right now and say, well, that's all very well, Cuz, but not everybody can be Kelly Slater, or not everybody can do what they love to do. If there's somebody, and I'm sure there'll be plenty of people in this position, that they're listening to this right now, and they're saying that with regards to, I have to go to work because I've got bills to pay. I have to do it. I don't enjoy what I do. It's all very well for you to say that. What guidance would you give to somebody to go out and find something that they can pay their bills while still enjoying? What would be the roadmap that you would suggest for them?
Well,
And I'm putting you on the spot, mate, but this is
no,
normally where you give us some gold, yeah?
yes, true. I feel very sorry for uh, people who are in that position. I've been in that position myself. Setting yourself a goal, figuring out, sit down and set yourself a goal, whatever you want to be. Set the goal, have a good think about it. Maybe you want to change roles completely, or you want to move up in your current role out of this position, whatever it may be. Set the goal and then break it down into steps. Simple, manageable, easy steps. And start from there. If it means you got to study, you got to find some time to study. We're going to talk about time management soon. You're going to give us some gold on that one. find some time to study. This is what I did when I started this new growth mindset that I fell into, that you opened up for me. Wake up another 15 minutes earlier so that I could have a coffee and devour that audio book or seminar or whatever it was that I was up to at that time. You
Yeah.
can find that time. That's the hard bit, trying to find that time. Set the little habits of, you know, setting alarms or setting reminders to study or getting up earlier, or find that 15, 20 minutes here and there when maybe you're on the train and you can listen to an audio book or whatever. Try and get that study in. And then from there, small steps. That's about where I'd say to start.
So it's about sort of having a goal that you're working towards, but looking to make yourself more valuable and upskill yourself in different areas. Yeah.
That's right. That's
Yeah.
right. Growth mindset, up those skill sets, make yourself more valuable. And if your current position doesn't see that, you've given yourself options
Yeah.
to
That's
move.
really what it comes down to so often, is
Yeah.
being able to create those options. And it's not always, it's certainly not going to be easy.
Oh no, you say it all
But
the time. The most stressed someone is, or some of the most stressed people in the world, are people without options.
yeah.
Like I'm in a position at the moment where I've got a few options, and so I'm relaxed. I don't need to worry about a couple of things. But if you've got no options, it's stressful. That's the only thing you can do. Go try and build that. Very tough. I wish you luck.
Mhm. Yeah. I remember being in the UK, and I was working with a brokerage at the time, but I actually had sort of planned my exit, as it were, from that particular business. And it was interesting because you could always be concerned about office politics and stuff like that, but as soon as I'd actually made the decision that I was going to move somewhere else, as soon as I handed in that notice, all of that pressure came off me. It was quite weird, because it was like, I don't have to care about this anymore. I really don't. And it's but again, I think it comes back down to that developing that growth mindset, because I think very often when people feel they don't have options, it's like, it can be a very fixed mindset around those certain things. And if you don't believe that things could be better, or things can be better, or there is a way to make things better, it's going to be very difficult. And I see a lot of that sort of being stuck in that place, and not upskilling. And I think that very often there can be a huge amount of frustration that comes with that. But I think also that frustration then can play itself through into real negativity in the individual, sort of
Mm. Yeah,
resentment, and sort of seeing that the world has done you bad and stuff like that. And it's like, it really is. It's so much about how you see things, and what you believe as a potential, what you could potentially do. Um, yeah, again, this is why I think this professional development, personal development is so absolutely crucial. Being able to start developing yourself and seeing that there is a way to improve things. I think that's a big part. Also, I think, to your point as well, a couple of weeks ago, is where you work. I've done so much different work, so many different types of roles. But I
yeah,
got to say, and some of them were terrible. Well, some of them people would think was terrible work, and some of it was rough work, man. I mean, it really was rough work, some of it. But it came down to less the work I was doing and more about the people I was working with. Okay, and
absolutely.
if I could find people that I would get on well with, and I was kind of lucky. I mean, there were some people that I didn't get on well with, and we kind of kept our distance from each other. But the vast majority of people I got on with,
Mm.
and I think also a lot of the time how you approach things can influence whether you can develop those good relationships with people or not.
Yeah, absolutely. Some of the best jobs I've had have been because of the people.
Yeah,
I've worked in top to bottom in the industry, and sometimes you just got a job that's just not the best. But the guys or the girls that you work with are just cracking, and
yeah.
it makes the day go faster. You get your work done, you have a laugh. Other times you think it's the perfect job, and everyone there is just, oh, this is a real downer, man. This isn't for me, and it's a bit toxic here, and everyone's, what's my big mate's word? Institutionalized.
Institutionalized.
I love that word. Just discovered it, so I'm going to use it every time I feel it should be just chucked in. Um, yeah, I agree. Like finding the other, well, finding time to get your professional development, and as you put it, yourself, work on your personal self-esteem, is maybe not so much about building new habits, about breaking existing habits as well, which I always think is hard. Finding that time might mean you have to sacrifice something else.
Yeah.
So you got to sit down and have a think about where you're spending your time, where your energy's going, and where you want it to go. And, maybe robbing from Paul a little bit to give to Peter, or that kind of a setup where you sacrifice something you like, put that on hold for a little while, and then, put your focus somewhere else and see where that goes.
Yeah, absolutely. Here's a question for you. You made mention that breaking old habits is more difficult than forming new habits.
Yeah.
What's the problem from your point of view with regard, as somebody who's changed a lot of their habits over the last few years, certainly since I've known you? What is the problem that people have with regards to breaking old habits and forming new habits? What are the issues there?
New habit is, well, it's pretty much what I said. Like, you want to, let's take an easy one. Like, you want to lose some weight. So you set yourself a goal. Like, I want to lose 5 kegs, and I'm going to give myself, realistically, I can lose, say, 0.5 kilogram a week if I up my exercise and up my steps and watch what I eat. So about 10 weeks. Give it a couple of months, and I want to drop 5 kegs. So and then you slowly implement. I have to do 10,000 steps a day. I have to watch what I eat. And you can slowly build on that, right? Like skill stacking, slowly build up that. Think about it from the other way. When you've got a habit, a bad habit, maybe let's take an easy one like smoking. All right. Maybe you're smoking a pack of cigarettes a day. You didn't start by smoking a pack of cigarettes a day. You started off with 1. Yeah. And then you had a couple, and then maybe you have 3 or 4, and 1 before you go to bed, and 1 when you wake up, and all of a sudden, after X amount of time, you're built up to a pack a day.
Yeah.
It didn't happen overnight. You just didn't wake up one morning and you weren't a smoker and you thought, you know what, I'm hitting a pack of ciggies a day. I'm going to smash these darts out and see how we go. It didn't work like that. It's a slow progression. So winding that off, especially with the addictive habits that everyone's got, maybe smoking, drinking, eating too much, and maybe social media,
Yep.
too much social media. So winding them back and getting the brain reprogrammed, those neural pathways that are pretty well embedded, I think is the hard part for that. Would you agree?
Yeah, to some degree, I think. Well, I think in theory, what you're saying is right there. I think that with regards to breaking old habits, somebody once said to me that you can't stop a habit; you can only replace it. And I think that's quite interesting. So it's like, if you've got a bad habit, what are you going to replace it with? Because if you just stop something, I think a lot of the time habits come through boredom as well.
Oh, yeah.
Boredom or frustration or some kind of outlet. And I think that instead of just stopping something cold turkey or what have you, I think to your point, sort of de-escalating it, but also finding something else to do with that time, or something else to do that is going to take you away from that,
Yeah. Being made aware of the possible outcomes of that as well. It may not be, the habit that you've got, you may not be aware of its pitfalls.
Yeah.
Or how much time it's actually taking away from you, or how bad it is for your health, for example.
Yeah.
Once you get that awareness, whether it's from yourself or from a trusted friend, or you just happen upon it, that's, being made aware of what the possible consequences are is a motivating factor as well.
Yeah, I think that that very often, if you get that awareness, and it can hit you in like a shock.
Yeah.
That's often what I think we've referred to this before, but as a significant emotional experience. Somebody experiences something that's a significant emotional experience, then effectively things can change quite quickly there as well.
Yeah.
And that's something I'm always thinking about with regards to how do I create long-lasting behavioral change in people. And it's not ethical to go around giving them significant emotional experiences.
No.
So
No.
we have to take other approaches there to make those tweaks. But yeah, I mean, I say to clients, it's like, whenever I'm going around the room and I ask each person what they want to take away, and it's like, firstly, they have to be aware of what needs to change. That's the first thing. Secondly, what is the cost associated with staying the same or potential reward of making a change?
Yeah.
And I think that's very often a starting point. But I think here's the other thing: is the power of compounding. to your example of going for a smoke or what have you, one cigarette's not going to kill you, but it's the compounded effect. And I think as human beings, particularly with, indulgences, it's never that one slice of cake that's going to get you. It's what happens over the longer term. And I think very often human beings, we battle to break those habits because it's the compound effect that really gets us. It's not that one little piece of cake, And I mean, I think very often people will think, oh, one little slice is not going to hurt. And yeah, they're right. But it's that action that over the longer term sort of adds together,
Yeah.
to cause that, and then everything else as well. And I think something else, just with regards to our journey over the last couple of years, I think if to replace one habit with another, so instead of going out on a Friday night, rather focusing on rolling or training on a Saturday morning. You keep
Yep.
yourself in, and you're not going to be able to go out that night because you want to keep yourself, and you want to keep yourself ready for the next day. And I think there's other components in that as well. I think that people going out, and it's nice to go out and let your hair down and feel like maybe you've earned it, over the
Yep.
week during the week. But I think a lot of the reason that people do that is for the social interaction with people. But if you can find that social interaction in a different world, in a different way, like things like even park run, they got park run locally down here as well. And, it's a whole community to get together. So people are getting that connection need with other people, but they're getting it in a healthier way. So instead
Yep.
of going out and partying that night, it's okay. Now I'm saving myself a Saturday morning when I go do park run.
Yep.
So just really thinking about why we undertake certain habits that we have. What is it serving us? Because it is serving us, otherwise we wouldn't do it. And very often I think it's not always on a logical basis, but almost on a subconscious basis. And then finding something else, a better habit that we can undertake to serve that purpose as well. I don't know. It's
Yeah.
a nice little thought, that I suppose.
Yeah. Filling up that time. A good friend of mine, he gave up drinking. This was just after COVID, and he all of a sudden found himself with so much time on his hands.
Yeah.
Um, from what being hungover, the time that he was actually drinking, the the way he was managing his workload so that he could get home early and have a beer. So he had to have a real think about that. He was quite surprised at how much thought he actually put into having a few beers.
Yeah. Right.
So, and how much time it ate up of his day. So he up early in the morning, boxing gym, started coaching his son's footy, goes 2 or 3 times a week out to the surfing wave pool at the back
Go
of Tough
Marine.
there.
Yeah.
But you're 100% right. Had to find breaking that habit. I mean, I've got to fill up that time. And it
Mm.
was quite amazing at how much time he had. So that opened my eyes to that side of things as well.
Here's the other thing with habits. I think is very often self-image is going to tie in with habits very closely. Have you read Psycho-Cybernetics by Maxwell Maltz,
Yes.
where he talks
Yes,
about
I have.
human beings having to be consistent with how they perceive themselves?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
if it's very often you can hear people's self-reflection through their words.
Mm.
And if we think of ourselves as a smoker, or a party guy or what have you, it's like that image. Human beings have to be consistent according, in their long-term actions. It's like making New Year's resolution to go to the gym, but you hate sweating.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I go to the gym. I go to the gym for 2 weeks because it's New Year's resolutions, and then it's like, oh, to hell with this. This is, I'm inconsistent with how I perceive myself because I hate being seen as a sweaty person. It's a real tough situation when we're going against those perception of self. It's a good book, that Psycho-Cybernetics really is.
Yes, I should go back and read that one. Go back over that again.
Mm.
It's been a while since I got that, over a year since I went through that one, I think. Um, yeah, so work-life balance, I guess it's what we're all searching for, or a lot of people are searching for, more time with their families, loved ones, maybe just more time out of the office, which is quite good with a lot easier now, I would suggest, with the work from home, the working away. There's a couple of guys that I work with, I work alongside, who they negotiated their new contracts for more time off, so less days a week. One of them's got more hours in the day and a day off every week, and the other one's just an old bloke and decided that's it. I'm only working 3 days a week. Take it or leave it.
Enough is enough. Yeah.
Enough's enough. So there's that option too. I guess, if you look at it that way, and maybe you don't, when pay time comes around, the pay rise time comes around, maybe it's not all about money. Maybe it's more about some flexible time for you, in your certain circumstance. So maybe you
Yeah.
could negotiate with the boss, look, keep me on the same money, but I want some flexi time. Another way of looking at it, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Just that thing on that the work-life balance. If it's something that people are after, that's cool. And people got to do what they got to do the right thing for their lives. In highly competitive industries, though, it's going to come down to the amount of work you put in. If you want to
Yeah.
be the number one person in your industry, you're going to be up against people who are prepared to sacrifice work-life balance. And it's just being aware of this type of thing. If there's like particular goals to go for, and if you're competitive, it's like I remember being in the UK, and everybody I was working with had a university qualification and I didn't. And I
Mm.
remember thinking, firstly, I had a huge chip on my shoulder, but secondly, thinking I'm not more skilled than these people because they've all got university qualifications and stuff like that. But I will flat out outwork you. I'll be working when you're sleeping, and it was like
Yeah.
it's almost like something you can get addicted to, I think, which is you're striving to be the best at what you do. And it's if you're in competitive marketplaces, and I know a lot of people who listen to this, they may be in competitive marketplaces. They're also people who are focused on professional development as well. So, potentially competitive people. And if you want to be the best at what you do, you have to remember that you're going to go up against people who are not overly excited by work-life balance. They will work whilst you're sleeping to try and get an earned advantage.
Yeah.
And that's the other side as well. And you made reference to Alex Hormozy earlier on today with regards to that's where he gets his joy from. He wants to work. He wants to work the whole time.
He loves
And
it.
yeah, I think there's that aspect to be considered as well. So I get it if people are after work-life balance. My question would be, what is the issue that they're dealing with? Are they working 9 to 5? Are they working later that night? Or what's the actual situation there? But yeah, in competitive marketplaces, it's not going to be people who are just starting at 9 and finishing at 5. You're going to have people who are going to be working. If their focus is just purely on being the best, they will be looking for a high degree of time in the arena, so to speak.
Absolutely. One of the Storm players on that train of thought about how there's a lot of people. If you want to be the best, you have to outwork everyone. And
Yeah,
similar to what you said, touching on your point, Melbourne Storm, rugby league team here, go back 12, 15 years, is a player, Cooper Cronk,
yeah,
who ended up being one of the legends of the game. He started and he came to the Melbourne Storm, and I remember him saying in an interview that he was felt so overwhelmed when he came because he was the greats that they had in that side at the time. Slater, Cameron Smith, Inglis. It was just a host of talented players. And Cooper Cronk was like, I have no idea why I'm here. I shouldn't be here up against all these. So I have to work 10 times harder, be the hardest working person here just to keep up.
yeah,
That's what it was in his mind. So he did everything in his power on and off the field, a lot of work off the field, obviously, to get to the point where he thought he was good enough to play with those guys. And as a result, ended up being one of the legends of the game, one of the greatest players, halfbacks out. So that theory that you're talking about is, if you want to be great, you got to work hard.
you see, this is where I think people's insecurities can become a massive asset to them. If we have this insecurity that I'm not as good as these other people that are around me, but I will outwork them, that becomes a real asset to someone. It's like
Yeah,
if they have that desire to really do well, but there's that high degree of insecurity, then effectively just being able to really focus on, I'll put in the work, I'll do it. That becomes a massive motivating factor as well, rather than just something that cripples you, that holds you back, severely. It's like, okay, I understand I'm not as qualified or skilled as these people, but if I have the option to go out and outwork them, that's what's going to happen. That's what I'm going to go for.
that's right. Imposter syndrome. It's not a bad thing. If you're feeling like you've got imposter syndrome, like you shouldn't be there, that's great. That's good. go and work harder so that you belong there. Don't sit
Yeah,
back and go, oh my gosh, I shouldn't be here around these
yeah,
people. Oh, they're going to get found out.
yeah,
Get, you know, get into some learning, figure out what you got to do to fit in,
yeah.
work hard.
It's interesting. It's like that insecurity kind of stuff. It cultivates that energy, and again, energy can be used to empower us or disempower us. And
Mm,
I think a lot of the time, it's like if I've got those massive anxiety or massive overwhelm or fear because I've got massive insecurities, it's energy. It has to go somewhere, And
yeah.
am I going to put it into a negative place that builds resentment and blame, or am I going to put it into professional development? Am I going to be looking at how can I improve myself? How can I build myself, make myself better? Because again, that fuel's going to feed something. It's just, what is it going to feed? Is it going to feed something empowering or something disempowering? You
Yeah, fight
know?
or flight. Yeah. It's like when you stand up at Toastmasters or you stand
Yeah,
up
yeah,
public
yeah,
speak, same part of the brain, like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm doing this. And your brain goes into flight, doesn't want to be here, disappears down the road with
yeah,
all cognitive ability. You stammer your way through whatever question you got asked, and you can barely remember your name. Whereas it's the same part of the brain, exact same part of the brain, fight and flight. You tell yourself, I'm pretty excited to get up here and talk.
yeah.
I'm going to get up here and smash it. The brain goes, whoa, let's give him some energy. Let's give him some energy to
Absolutely.
do that. Instead of using the energy to run away, let's charge.
100%. That's the thought process anyway. That's the thought process.
So, time management skills. If we're going to talk about life balance, work life balance, and we're going to talk about creating new habits,
Yeah.
we need maybe the work life balance thing is because you're not using your time as effectively as you should. And therefore, you're working too much, which means your boss has to send you an email on the weekend to say what's going on with this. You didn't quite finish this off. Maybe that's what that email's about. So, time management skills, Paulie. How do you focus your time? How do you manage your time? What's some strategies around that you can give us an insight into?
Yeah, well, I tell you what, I can come back to sort of my approach with it a little bit later. But what I think would probably serve people better if I can give some insights with regards to the challenges I see around time management, and people come to training and obviously train time management as well.
Yep.
But the first thing is that there is what we refer to as a time a prioritization matrix, which is not difficult to find. It's out there. You can do a Google search of it, but effectively what it is four quadrants. And anything that's urgent and needs to be done now needs to be done. And you can evaluate that. Then anything that is urgent, but it's not time bound right now, you can plan that. Anything that is needs to be done, but not necessarily by you, you can potentially delegate that. And then the fourth bottom one is what you're doing that's wasting time and not giving you a return on your time invested. And that a lot of the time is things like social media or social calls or, talking to people in, coffee conversations and stuff that is nice to do, but it's not imperative to do. And that matrix, again, it's very easy to find it just with a Google search, but you can then evaluate what you're doing on a regular basis to be able to evaluate what I need to do now, what I can plan, what I can delegate, and what I can break off. Now, I'm willing to bet the vast majority of us spend way more time on our phones than what we think we do.
Oh yeah,
Okay, I really,
absolutely.
really reckon that. And there's, that can be a massive time waster. But here's the thing: we're not always aware of how much time we're putting into that type of thing. And anything if there's not an awareness around it, then we're not going to fix it. So I think that's a good point, a good place to start with regards to looking at your workload and then being able to plug it into that priorities matrix with regards to what you're going to allocate your time to. I think that's the first step. Second thing, what I always say to my clients is do this, and it's a very powerful, it's a beautiful technique to utilize, which is make a list of 10 things you do every single week. So something work related, there'd be a list of 10 things that you would do. It might be sending different types of emails. It might be chairing a meeting. It might be a toolbox meeting. It might be updating calendars. It might be whatever. And they'll write out a list of 10 things that I ask them to do. So they'll think about their week. What are 10 things I do every single week? And they'd write those things out. And then what I'd say to them is okay, look at all of those. Firstly, tell me which one of those four quadrants it falls into. So they would put a number down to it as to what's a priority, what's not a priority. And then also what I would ask them to do, the next thing I'd ask them to do is to look at every single thing they've written down there. And I would ask them, which one of those things there uh, can a process be written for, or somebody else taught how to do that? Okay. Because if you can systematize it, or write out a process or teach it, then effectively what happens is you start having the option to be able to delegate it out. Okay. Now that's a nice way of doing it, because people start realizing it's like, okay, there's other things that potentially I could teach somebody else to do. Now, I said that is a option. It's not always something you have to do, because very often people say, well, I've got nobody to delegate to. Okay. All right. I take that point as well. Here's what I have seen before with my clients at training. They'll come there, they'll figure out what is a high priority for them to do and what is not a high priority, and what could be systematized or delegated out. And then what I have seen is sort of getting them to start asking, is it worth their time to do that work, or is it worth a case study to put together where you could then go out and say to your boss, listen, I think we should bring on some more resource, or can we outsource this somewhere else? Because there's a lot of process driven work here that is just not giving the business a return on their time invested if I'm doing it.
Yeah.
So that I have seen that work before. And again, it starts, I think, with the awareness with regards to the work that we're undertaking. Yeah, and then the ability to actually communicate, to delegate the work. And I think there's a lot of people who firstly battle to say no if somebody comes and asks them to do some work, battling to say no, which is a challenge. And then the second thing is actually how to be able to communicate well, so people are committed to the work that you're asking them to be able to take on. So if there can be a reason why you would delegate some work that could, positively elevate status in the people that you're talking to, then very often they're going to be a little bit more inclined to actually take on that work. So I think the first thing is looking at the work that you're doing on the regular, putting it into that priorities matrix, seeing what could have a system or procedure written for, and then, making the decision, is it worth your time to do it, or could you put a case study to actually outsource that so you can start doing bigger ticket stuff, which is more profitable to the actual business. And I've seen business cases being put together for that as well.
Yeah. No, yeah. I have a similar system where I just list my jobs that I have to do. There is one problem with that. Well, not one, there's probably hundreds of problems with that. But our friend Taylor, Purple Belt Taylor,
Yeah.
new dad Taylor, me and him have brushed up against this, where I come from a long lengthy list, a long line of men who do things themselves.
Yeah.
Why would I pay someone else to do that when I can do it?
Yeah.
That's my mentality.
Yeah.
And that's everything from mowing the lawns, building the house, fixing the car, digging a hole, whatever. I see that as on me. And if you want, you have to see a value in yourself and maybe pay someone else to service your car or pay someone else to mow your lawns.
Yeah.
Well, it's either that or I just concrete them all over and I don't have to ever mow them again. I can just paint my concrete green.
Yeah,
but
it comes with its own problems. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what can be really time sapping. So getting that thought process, or that habit that I've got to do everything, everything's on me, is one thing that I struggle with. But when it comes to lists and getting motivated around doing stuff,
Yeah.
I'll write down everything I need to do. Sometimes that list will sit there for a month, of things that I'll pick out the urgent ones and cross them off. Or if I want to get started, what I'll do is I'll pick an easy one.
Mm.
I need a win to get the ball rolling. Oh, that's an easy
Yeah.
one. I can knock that off now. Watch this. Half the time that'll get me motivated to do, oh, maybe while I'm up, I can do that. And I'm up and I'm rolling and away I go. So, but you're right, identifying things, setting deadlines by some of my tasks as well, so that I know it's coming, setting
Yeah.
reminders, things like that. And then it gets half the time when I list stuff down, I'm just picking on myself. I don't need to do that. That can be
Yeah.
done by someone else, or, I don't have to do that now. I'm just being hard on myself and trying to use up time that I don't have. So
Yeah,
again, trying to work out where I can put my energy at that particular time.
absolutely. The approach that is strongly recommended is to actually figure out what you earn per hour. So what is your time worth per hour?
Yeah,
And once you figure that out, then you look at your list of things that you have to do, and then you ask yourself the question: well, is it possible that I can get this stuff done cheaper than the time my time is worth? So let's say my time is worth $10 an hour. Okay, that's what I'm charging, $10 an hour. And I'll give you a great example. Stuff I can do, but I don't want to do. And one of those things is like designing my PowerPoint presentations and putting all my branding on and stuff like that. I can do it, but it's not something I'm going to get up for. It's not something that I'm going to do well. And
yeah,
it's going to be something that is, that is a pain in the neck for me to do. So what I do with that type of stuff, anything that, I don't need to do and I can get it done cheaper than my actual time, I'll outsource that. So I have a team of people that I outsource work to, and they do the job a hell of a lot better than what I do. But I know it's going to get done as well. And you're providing employment for people, but it's going to get done. Otherwise, I'll sit here and just put it off, put it off, put it off, put it off.
yeah,
It's just like,
absolutely.
and it's not. I've got to that stage now where it's just like it's not feasible for me to do things when somebody else could do it cheaper and more effectively and efficiently than what I could. So it's been a real freer, that whole thing, with regards to figuring out what I want to do and what I don't want to do, and what somebody else could do better than me, and let me outsource that as best I can.
And it's a very good lesson, especially in leadership, right there, where I mean, you're an entrepreneur, so you can delegate out these things, but also in leadership, if there's something that you find yourself doing that you may not be as good at, and you've got someone in your team that's very good at it, don't be afraid to defer to their area of expertise.
Absolutely,
You know,
100%.
I can probably do PowerPoint presentations if you give me long enough and a YouTube channel, it'll come out looking like I've done it with a crayon on the screen. But
Yeah,
no, I can do it. Someone else can do it faster, more professionally, probably cheaper in the long run, because not only did it take me 3 hours where it took them 1 hour, that 3 hours of my energy I can use doing something that I'm good at.
absolutely,
So
100%.
it's like a double hit kind of thing, you know. So yeah, love that idea. Love that idea of outsourcing. Still can't get it through my head. Still don't want to outsource to Jim's mowing my lawns. Just don't want to do it.
You don't want to do it.
I just can't. I can't bring myself to it.
Wow.
But,
Okay.
but I will. I will. I'll get to it. I'll get to
If
that.
it costs you too much, and when I say cost, I'm not talking about financial cost. I'm talking about the cost of actually doing it. It's like whether it doesn't get done, or you end
That's
up
right.
with snakes in your lawn because the lawn gets too big or what have you. That'll be the cost.
Oh
And
yeah.
that's
Let's not
then sort
talk
of the
about
motivating
snakes.
factor to make these things happen.
Let's not talk about snakes. We had enough of them at work, in the yard. Let's not go there. On edge. Yeah. Our time management skills. It's something that it's an individual thing. Obviously, there are a lot of other external factors as well. Family time, social engagements, maybe other responsibilities, things like that you have to take into account. So there
Yeah.
can be quite a lot on the list. Um, I do find a lot. I can calm myself by doing setting myself good routines, especially
Yes.
in the morning. Call it like standard operating procedure.
Yeah.
This is what my morning routine looks like Monday to Sunday. Now that I'm old, my body just decides that we're waking up at that time, whether we like it or not. Very, very few days of the week I sleep and I hit the alarm. Usually I'm awake before that. Um, but my routine in the morning, it's something that I just do. I get up way too early. I get my study in, I get my coffee in, I get my exercise in, shower, done, off to work. And it's amazing if you do actually if I do spend a bit too much time studying or get a bit over enthusiastic on the bike, it's amazing what you can cut out of that routine to go back to basics to get out the door because you're running 5 minutes late. So every night's the same thing, every evening. I'm not sure if everyone else does it, but mine is get my lunch ready for the next day, the old overnight oats all ready to go so that
Yeah.
I don't have to worry the next day. It takes a lot of stress and decisions out. I mean, we're on the go at work. Something I struggled with when I first started with this crew was the fact that sometimes we don't stop for lunch. Sometimes you get very little lunch. You're driving a truck through your lunch, or stuff like that. So I had to adjust my eating style and eating plan so that I've got stuff that can be eaten on the run. Doesn't need to be heated up. So it's wraps and things
Yeah.
like that. So um, little adaptations like that to make your life easier, to take some decisions out of your day.
Mm.
That to me are time saving. I don't have to worry about the mornings anymore. I can get up, do what I have to do. It's routine. I'm relaxed, hit the job running. Whereas, you know, if I'm not planned and I'm stressed or I haven't got myself ready the night before, I'm all over the place. It starts the day bad for me. So that's a little time saving hack that I've got.
Yeah, I like it. It's that you're taking that sort of cognitive load out of what you're doing
Yeah,
on a daily basis. So you don't have to
precisely.
think about it. It's just like you do it. It's like I remember Steve Jobs talking about that. That's why he would always wear that black polo neck, for his presentations. He wouldn't have to think too much about it. But being
You
able to
know how
sort of,
much I struggle, my lovely brain. Every time I get asked to go somewhere new,
yeah,
whether it's Toastmasters, Jiu-Jitsu, a night out with someone, my wife says, "Oh, my friends have invited us here." My brain, first thing says, "What do I have to wear? Can I get away with shorts and jandals?"
yeah,
All it does. I so stress about what I have to wear. Like, oh, I've got to go meet Paulie. What shall I wear? And whereas I can get up most mornings, chuck on the shorts, work boots, shirt, whistle, cap, sunnies, out the door. Don't have to worry about it. Any other time, so what am I going to wear? Do I have to wear those kind of shoes? What does smart casual mean? What's a chino? I wonder what a chino is. So
chinos. My goodness, yeah.
when you get me out of my standard operating procedure of the morning, I am a mess.
And your wife doesn't give you any guidance on what to wear?
My wife gives me all the guidance in the world. She buys everything I wear. I can dress myself. I can't dress myself. I'm a product of my darling wife. So don't go thinking that I'm a fashionista. It's a case of a lot of the time, babe, what do I wear with this? But no, don't wear that. Wear that.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, babe. And I'm
That's
out the door.
my sister's favorite go-to, which is anytime she goes out, she gets a compliment on what she's wearing. She goes, "Thanks, I dressed myself."
Hey, Mel.
There you go. There you go. Yeah. No, they're taking that cognitive load out. You get out, you know what you're doing every morning. Good stuff. You start making it sort of business as usual. That's awesome.
Yeah, and it's relaxing too. So as long as I know that I've set myself up for the next day, I can relax and get a good sleep, can wake up in the morning. And even if I do wake up late, because I don't like being late,
No,
I do not like
no.
making people wait.
I think it's
Whether,
unprofessional to be late, eh? It really
yeah,
is.
whether it's in traffic or getting on a plane or getting off a plane or even in a queue or anything, I just do not like holding people up. Something I
Yeah.
struggled with when I first started driving trucks. Massive queue behind me because I'm the slowest moving vehicle on the road.
Yeah.
Care about that so much anymore. Don't care about that anymore. But yeah, the fact that I don't like being late, my wife gives me a hard time because we're super early. Any family holidays,
Yeah.
kids always give me a hard time now. I cop a fair amount of flack off my kids. So what time do we have to be at the airport? We have to be at the airport at 7 a.m. Right, we're getting out of bed 2:30 in the morning. We'll be
Yeah.
leaving at 3. We'll be there 6 hours beforehand. And they're just, oh my gosh, why are we here so early?
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
I'm
I'm
that
a bit of a
person.
fan of getting there early as well, mate. I really am. I'm sure there'll be one day where I get to the airport and think, I've forgotten my passport. And then I think, good job. I got here 5 hours early. I can go back and get my passport and still be on time.
Yeah.
Touch wood, that's still to happen though. I hope it
I'll
doesn't.
let my wife tell you about the time I did that. So yeah, I didn't forget my passport. I forgot everyone's passport.
Wow.
But luckily enough, I'd left so early that we got to right near the airport. I'm like, U-turn, rush hour traffic back, passports,
Wow.
rush hour traffic back, and we still got on the plane. So
Yeah,
good side to being not wanting to be late all the time. Just that one.
absolutely.
Just
Absolutely.
that once. So you have standard operating procedure, but do you have standard operating procedure as well when I mean, not so much, I don't do it for days off like today, but if you're working tomorrow, is there something you always kind of set yourself up for?
It depends. It depends on what the delivery is that I'm making. So I'll make sure that my that I'm across my content. And again, I mean, I think there's about 16 or 17 different workshops I deliver now. So it's all of my content I'm across. I can, I know it insides, backwards, upside down, that type of thing. So I can just focus on making sure I can apply it to the audience. What I will do very often is I'll look through the list of attendees and get an idea of what industries they're coming from. So just to think about, what could be some of the contextual examples. But I like to get to the places early. If I'm going to a client's place and we're going to start at 9, I want to be able to get into that boardroom or what have you by 8 a.m. If I can do that setup, here's my thought process. It's so important to me that the clients have a phenomenal learning experience to get world-class outcomes as a result of our time together. Is I won't leave anything to chance. And what I mean by that is I want to be early. I even taking a cold shower in the morning, 3 minutes of cold shower. And what I'll say to myself is, if you get through this 3 minutes of cold shower, which at this time of year is not easy to do, if you get
Correct.
through that 3 minutes of cold shower, then effectively that's the most challenging thing you'll face all day. If you don't, something big is going to happen. It's not going to go well. The delivery is not going to go well. So I will cross every T and dot every I possibly can. It's in my area of control. And then when I get there, if I've done everything I possibly can do, then it's in the hands of whatever gods may be. Let me tell you that, because it's like, if I've done everything and something happens, like, I don't know, whatever, something bad could happen at the client's place or what have you, then that's out of my control. But if something's in my control, I didn't cross my T's and dot my I's, then I wouldn't forgive myself in that situation.
Great. We must be related partly along the line somewhere because I think it sounds like a little bit of superstition going on there with, if I miss this bit of my cold shower, I'm the same. If I miss a part of my morning routine or it just plays on my mind so bad.
Yeah,
Like I'm not as bad as I have to put my left shoe on all the time and I have to click the lock a certain amount of times, I'm not like that, but it plays on my mind. It really does. Like if you got to cut your shower short, you've got to, you only have one coffee or you haven't got time for a full half hour on the exercise bike. So it plays on my mind all day. Like what's coming next?
yeah,
It's weird.
yeah. I wouldn't say I'm superstitious. I'm maybe just a little stitious. But
Just a little stitious. Oh yeah, okay. Well, geez. Cool dad joke, man. um, so that's about all I can think of in this. Like time management comes back to making sure you set yourself up well, identify those tasks. Work-life balance is also give yourself options, I believe. Options
Absolutely.
on where you are. Have a good think about. There seems to be a lot of it going around about people with their side hustle and work for yourself, an entrepreneur, and all this kind of thing. And maybe the demands, especially with the cost of living nowadays, maybe the demands are so high on people. People feel like they have to work
Yeah,
or
yeah.
they
That's
have
the other
two
thing.
jobs.
I can't get my head around cost of living. I mean, as a single
Uh,
guy, working, doing something I love and getting paid well for it, it's like I, I've noticed it. I don't go. I don't. I don't buy expensive things. I'm not like that. It's just like, but that cost of living is something else right now. Really
you
is.
you do, and as a dad, cost of living has got
Yeah,
to a point where your son comes home, your son who's 21, who goes to university, he comes home from the supermarket, sits me and his mother down and gives us a talk about cost of living and how his grocery bill, which usually consists of KFC, chocolate, and a fizzy drink of some sort, of red cordial or something,
yeah,
and he gives us a big speech. Doesn't pay rent or anything, doesn't worry about anything like that. Gives us a speech on how he doesn't know people are going to get by
yeah.
because of the cost of living. Like, must be bad. But
They
yeah,
have to cut back on the KFC, bro.
he might have to. Yeah, you'd think so, eh? He won't. Um, yeah, so maybe people are struggling with that. I know cost of living, mortgage, interest rates, everything's high. So the pressure on people to work to make
Yeah,
sure they pay, because everyone's got bills. We've all
yeah.
got bills. And maybe that's a big part of it as well. So I don't know where things are going. I'm not an economist. I pay too much tax to be an economist.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. Again, we come back to this aspect though. It's like trying to upskill yourself as much as you can, because as the more you do that, the more options you have, and the more options you have, the better things ultimately become.
yeah,
It's having options. And yeah, I mean, I know I bang on about that, particularly in when I'm training negotiations, but it's like having different options and putting in the work ahead of time to create those options. It's really it's and always being proactive with trying to create more and more options. And I
yeah.
think that includes upskilling yourself and building good relationships. I think once you can do that, good things come from there.
Yeah, and just be patient. Try and get consistency going. Give it a month, give it 3 months. We're halfway through the year. I think tomorrow,
Yeah, that's another thing that's blowing
you
my
know,
mind. Yeah,
I think tomorrow is halfway through this year. So, which is crazy. So time seems to be rocking away. But if I look back to myself at Christmas, I can see the changes.
yeah, yeah,
I look back
absolutely.
a
Yeah,
year ago, I can see the changes. So what am I going to do now to make sure that I'm different at Christmas? Give it 6 months, see how it goes. It's something you can't be it's something that can't be taken away from you. Learning, upskilling, that's yours for life. So give it 6 months, see how it goes.
yeah, absolutely, 100%.
Deep thought there. Well, that's about all we've got this week, I would suggest, Paulie. I've had some good feedback coming this week.
Yeah,
Had some good things coming out of better outcomes. We're so still taking bookings this year?
yeah. We've actually, I've started taking bookings now up to the end of next year. Believe it or not, up to the
Oh,
end of next year, I've got bookings. I've got bookings for December 2025 already going in, which is
is that
mind
the
blowing.
Christmas party? You booked in our Christmas party, have you?
No,
No?
we can do a Christmas party, mate, anytime, no worries at all.
Anytime last year. Right. That'd be great.
But it's
Uh,
actually Better Outcomes 1 year anniversary tomorrow. So it's been a hell of a year, and for all of those, and Kaz as well, for your help and all of that stuff on this, and all the stuff you do on the social media, mate. I appreciate that, and all the people who've been following us and sending feedback and all of that stuff. It's been a phenomenal year. It really has, and hopefully, it's only the beginning of great things ahead as well.
it is. Doing this podcast is a privilege. And like we've always said, it came as a throwaway comment at in a car park after jiu-jitsu.
Yeah,
Um, but really enjoying it, enjoying the fact that we've got people out there who we can help, a
absolutely.
little bit of guidance. And that means the world to me. That's what I do it for. So thank you all for listening. I hope you took something away from this week's time management skills and work-life balance seminar.
Absolutely.
We'll be back next
100%.
week with something else, something new and improved, and probably end up talking about the exact same things as what we talked about this week. What do you think, Paulie? And
Keeping
then
options
maybe the
open,
week
creating
after,
options.
I would suggest the week after, I'm going to find a different backdrop to have this podcast come to you from.
Yeah. Yeah. Are you on your holiday? Yeah.
Yeah,
Fantastic.
yeah. I'm still going to have to see, and my brain immediately goes, I'm going to have to take a shirt so I can wear a shirt. I can't, where I'm going, it's going to be singlets and shorts and jandals. And I'm, damn, now, but see, everywhere I go, I got to worry about clothes.
There you go. Fantastic, cuz. Listen, thanks again, mate. Great having you on board. And here's to many, many more. Everybody on there, really appreciate it. Speak to you soon. Take care, folks.
Thanks, guys. Yeah.
Cheers.